Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode. On this episode, I'm going to talk about the Cajun Gun Works parts kits that I installed on my 75B and my 75 SP-01. Let's go over the parts that I changed. So, I changed the recoil spring, the firing pin and the firing pin spring, the hammer spring, the trigger return spring, the plunger spring, and the pin that holds the firing or the trigger assembly together here. I did this on both of these. Sans the firing pin. I left the regular firing pin from CZ in this pistol. I think that that's one of the parts that I don't really think was necessary. That's why I didn't originally buy it. I think that it would be more necessary if you were running their lightest hammer spring, which is black and it's like 11 pounds. But I'm running the blue one that's at 13 pounds, and their firing pin is supposed to be a little bit longer so that you can get better strike on the primer when you have a weaker hammer spring. But I didn't think that that made a difference, and when I went to the range, I didn't have any problems with either pistol as far as function goes. So use the same ammo at the same distance, same Cajun Gun Works parts kits for the most part, and the results are not the same. I do have the target here over to my left, but I think that that's not indicative of the differences between the two. So I'm going to talk more in depth about the differences after the installation of the parts kit. So after installing the Cajun Gun Works parts kit, I measured the single action trigger pull for the 75B and the 75 SP-01. Now my gauge doesn't go above 8 pounds, so I can't measure the double action trigger pull, but I can definitely feel it's lighter also. I do have the 75 compact to compare to, so I also can use that as a test because that's still factory CZ 75 with the single action, double action trigger and all the same parts, just on a smaller scale because it's a 75 series pistol. I noticed that this one is just under 4 pounds for the single action trigger pull, and this one's right at 3.5. I don't know what the variation is. The only difference in the parts I changed would be the firing pin. The firing pin spring is the same. They're both Cajun Gun Works firing pin springs that are reduced power, but I don't know why, or I can't figure out that extra little half pound. Now, I can say that I do think that the kit, even though it's not the easiest to install, it's extremely cost effective. If you were to buy a trigger for your Glock, it's easy to install, right? It'll drop just right in, but it's going to cost over $100 most likely. These Cajun Gun Works parts kits are extremely affordable. You just need to know how to take them apart and put them back together, and you need to have some specialized tools. That's the only difference between this and your polymer pistols, is everything with that is dumbed down. This, you got to have a little bit more skill, and it does take a little bit more patience. It is easy to lose these little springs and little pins, but good thing Cajun Gun Works has them. They ship really fast, and they're actually pretty cheap to buy, a lot of these pins and springs. So this is a worthwhile investment, and it's fun. But in my honest opinion, I really wish that I would have left the 75B as it was and focused on the SP-01. It is a different pistol, but it is the same at the same time. One is definitely more heavy than the other, and I think that has something to do with the variation in performance and in the trigger pull. I do think that the upgrade is something that if you wanted to do it, you could do it, but CZ is so great out of the box that I wouldn't say that it's required. Here is the target for the 75B. 40 feet, 9mm, 115 grain, brass cased ammo. No malfunctions. As you can see, I did fairly well, stacked on top of each other. Got some in the bullseye, touched the bullseye right here on this one, and on this one, got them touching here. Didn't actually get it right in the middle, so a little bit disappointing, but whenever I see this, where it's basically like you're drawing a line, you know, you get the little centipede look, that's good because you're getting repeated accuracy. So getting used to the lighter trigger pull is one of the things, and I noticed with this 10-pound recoil spring that it didn't have enough juice to load the next round. Just casually pulling the slide back, I had to really pull it all the way back. But then when I used the slide lever stop, it was just fine. But I do have a 10-pound spring in this right now, and it is super easy to pull back. It is like effortless. So it comes with a 16-pound spring, but one of the things that if you wanted to change on these, I'd get a 12-pound recoil spring for this and definitely change that, because this and the SP-01 come with a heavier recoil spring than it's needed, and that's something that I don't think is unaffordable for anybody. They're only $6 a piece, so something to consider. Here's my target from the SP-01 at 40 feet, 9mm, 115 grain, brass case, brand new. So as you can see, the results are similar to the 75B. I may have gotten more in the little diamond areas, but I'd already warmed up with the 75B. So the test is flawed, I will admit on my own accord. But the good news is that the parts kits didn't cause any malfunctions whatsoever, and it didn't change the accuracy right out of the box. I think that with these CZ pistols, if you're a good shooter, you can do this without the parts kit. You got to be able to control the trigger pull. I think now the trigger pull is just more enjoyable at 3.5 pounds, especially on this one. And it's such a shorter reset now, and you can hear the audible click with the reset. So it resets really short. So doing rapid shooting with this, that's what I'm looking forward to. Target shooting, I can't really say that the parts kit made it so that I was just bullseyeing everything all at once. No. It did make the trigger pull definitely lighter, and the recoil spring definitely made it easier to load the pistol, for sure. But as far as improving on the performance, I think that that's going to be, we'll see, because those springs still have to get worked in. I've only put 75 rounds through each, 78 rounds, 76, I can't add. 4 19-round magazines, so 76 rounds with the full Cajun Gunworks parts kit in each of them, or excuse me, the spring kits that I put into them. So we'll see over time, but just right off the bat, took 1 pound off the trigger pull for the 75B and 1.5 pounds off the 75 SP-01. When I look at the targets and compare the results after installing the Cajun Gunworks kit, I can't really say that I did any better or any worse than I would have if I wouldn't have done the parts kit change. Now that may not be true when I'm doing, say, rapid firing, because the single action reset is a lot shorter. So if we're taking my time and shooting at the range, it is a lower trigger pull, which is nice, but it didn't increase the accuracy at all. The accuracy has always been there, but it is a little bit more enjoyable to shoot. However, this isn't the easiest to do. So you can lose parts and you can destroy parts. Like if you don't have the pins correct and you keep trying to hammer them in there, well, you can destroy some of the pins, especially some of these flimsy CZ pins. With the pins that the sights are dovetail in, I can honestly say that I messed one of those up because it started to mushroom in there, and then I started to panic. So these aren't the easiest to work on, but the parts kits, are highly affordable. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this to somebody that's a newbie. This is something for someone that has some confidence in their abilities to take it apart and put it back together. This is something that I don't think that you should try that if you haven't done anything before. You should at least watch the Cajun Gunworks video of them take the 75 SP-01 completely apart and put it back together. Then you'll know how to do the other 75 series, including the Shadow competition models, because they're very similar. Going forward, I don't think that I'm going to do anything more to the 75B. I think I'm going to leave it as it is. I think with the SP-01, I'm going to get the Cajun Gunworks trigger because the angle here is not as severe, and I think it's going to be a little bit more comfortable to shoot, especially with that reduced trigger pull. I'm also looking to get the Cajun Gunworks sear cage. I don't know what the part they call it, but it's going to be part of their short reset system. So the trigger reset is pretty short as it is now, and I think with that part and the different angle on the trigger, I think it'll be even more of a sweet shooter. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how the kit breaks in over time, and we'll see how it reacts after I get another few hundred rounds in it and if the pull weight lightens up at all. Stay tuned for updates. Thanks for watching.